Okay, so why don't you take a second and try and read through the problem, and then after you're done doing that, we can start. Okay, so this is a paragraph. It says, Developments in Understanding Ancient Greek Art by Will Floyd. Okay, so we go sentence by sentence. It says, I'm just going to think out loud as I go, but it says, most people imagine stark white templates and plain marble statues as the ideal of ancient Greek art. Okay, so that's setting your frame. Ancient Greek art, plain marble statues, stark white. That's the idea. Nothing could be further from the truth. Okay, so it wasn't stark white, it wasn't plain marble statues. As ancient Greeks lavished their statue sculptures and buildings with bright colors. Okay, sounds good. So the common misconception of plainly adorned Hellenic art. So Hellenic art, I'm guessing we're putting near Greek art or something like that. So they're kind of talking about it in a different way. Can be blamed on the ancient Greeks' biggest proponents in history. Okay. Enlightenment era classicists eagerly visited ancient ruins in the 18th century and saw artifacts. Okay, so Enlightenment era. Ancient Greeks' biggest proponents in history. So we're talking about after the Greek. The Enlightenment era classicists loved the Greeks. Okay, so we're talking about plain white marble stuff. All right, we're saying that's not true. And they're saying that Enlightenment Greek lovers popularized the plain white stuff. But there actually was colorful. Okay, great. Okay. By the time 19th century, archaeologists found proof some has been weathered. Okay. Visit the ancient ruins and saw artifacts that had been weathered to plain white stone through decades of neglect. By the time 19th century archaeologists found proof that the Parthenon and images of gods were meant to be in vivid hues, eminent scholars in Europe refused to countenance. Now, I'm guessing just like refused to acknowledge. Let's call it acknowledge, right? So this one's messed up. It's going to try messing people up. It just means acknowledge that pure white marble was not antiquity's aesthetic paradigm. So what we're saying here is we're saying that 19th century discover, and then we're saying that Europeans refused. And not just Europeans, European scholars. Okay. Widespread acknowledgement of the ancient Greeks' adoration of bright colors only came in the late 20th century, so it did eventually come around in 21st centuries, as scientific tests proved ancient statuary and buildings had once been covered in polychrome paint. Okay, don't know what polychrome paint means, well, let's just call it paint. So the author's argument is best summarized. Okay, so that's the question. Okay, so as 21st century scientific tests will solve disputes around the ancient world. This is kind of broad. This is a little bit too broad. We're only talking about one thing in the ancient world. Greeks report artists who have overrated history. That's definitely wrong. So wrong and wrong. Enlightenment era classicists knew nothing about art. That's also way too bold, way too strong, right? They might know a lot about art. They just were wrong about this one thing. Plain white marble is the ideal color for sculpture. Again, this is an opinion. It's not true. So all these are wrong. So basically the bottom one is true. A true understanding of Greek art acknowledges their use of color. This is correct. This is correct. This is the right answer.